Hello, hi everyone. My name is Rogerio. I work as a technical director for Ethisys. Ethisys is a digital company, those services for organizations who wanted to work on CRM, ERP, CDP systems. But these, what I'm going to show, it's not a tool, it's just a ways of working. I've been working, my experience is mostly around quality assurance. For 10 years I've been working as a contractor for organizations. And one of the things that I came across quite often, as you probably came across as well, it's how we can work and collaborate together as a team. There's always a problem. There's always situations when you think like, oh, it's an agile, but when you eventually get into it, it's not actually agile. These ways of work that I'm showing, it's not ideal for organizations that already matured working agile. It's mostly for chaotic projects. When you step into and then you don't have the actual leadership from the BA or from the project manager or the management, and then you'll be like, oh, what should we do on this project? And working with a developer, Rob Nightingale, for 6 years, we kind of say, well, let's rethink on how we approach these. Borrowing a few things from Agile, using Kanban as well, we kind of say, well, let's do this. So let's tell you what does that mean, actually draw, right? So the problem is one source of the truth, having everything in one place. Usually when you get into the project and then you have like so many things popping up on Teams, Slack, WhatsApp, email, and I was like, whoa, how can we get everything in one place rather than scattered everywhere? With that, the traceability of what the source of information is, and also you end up having missing requirements, missing information, and eventually when it gets around the UAT as well, it's like, oh, requirement creep. Quite often when you're working on a project, when it gets around the UAT, the business says, well, this is not actually what we asked for. What's going on? Acceptance criteria. Oh, I've worked in so many projects that end up having no acceptance criteria. And I'm like, oh, I need to test this, but where's the acceptance criteria, right? Teams work in silo because you get fed up. It says, oh, there's no acceptance criteria. I'm going to work on my own. No, bring back together, everybody together. And with all these situation up to this point, if you're not tired enough, the lack of documentation, the knowledge transfer, and I end up with miscommunication altogether. And who has come across any of these situations before?
Every single day.
Yeah, everyone, every single day, right? Yes, I know. And that's what we came up with these, which gives a bit more like a structured framework. I know you can argue and say, well, Rogerio, there's Agile already. I know there's Agile, but what if you have a small budget, a small team, you don't have a Scrum Master, the business push back and says, well, we don't have budget to get a Scrum Master, so you have to make it up, developer, BA, and tester, do and sorted these out. So this helps because with that conversation, it forces everyone to be in the same place, and it prevents all these situations where the miscommunication, the working in silos, and that's what we came up with. The D.R.A.W stands for the description. You say, well, but we already know that, Roger. We already do that. But quite often we don't, based on this description, we don't discuss the risks within the work item that you have to work on. We talk about the risks about the project, but we don't kind of narrow down to the situation where we get the user story. And then we say, well, let's work on that risk. Let's bullet points. What are the risks are on that specifically? And that these two will drive the acceptance criteria. And you bring the business together and say, BAs, please go in and talk to the business and say, let's work on the acceptance criteria based on the description and the risks. And combining all those three, which is, we already do that, I know, we define like, these are all the work items that we have to work on and execute that within that user story. I'm going to show the user story in a moment. It will make sense, hopefully. And the aim of these, and that we have applied these in multiple projects, in multiple clients, these ways of working helps with the traceability in every task that you work on. It forces the team to put everything together in one source of the truth, in one place, and it prevents the scope creep that happens in UAT, definitely. The knowledge transfer, the documentation. Some people get confused about like, oh, I'm not gonna write like a book or a manual or anything like that, but the documentation to me, and to many of you, I hope it's the actual user story that you're working on. We use the wiki to structure the information, to be like, categorized and everything, but the documentation needs the actual user story that you're working on. And that helps with the collaboration between BA, the developers, the QA team, and obviously the PMs as well, if they wanted to get involved in. Is there any PAs here? PMs? Project manager? Yeah? So it helps. It helps like, oh, where the hell is that information? That helps if you want to get involved in this, because some PA maybe stand back and don't want to get involved in the technical bit, but this helps as well. The description, I'll just put everything in there. So the description side, and I'll show you what it looks like when I set up in Azure DevOps. It's where we obviously things that we know that use the story format. As a user, I just wanted to create a task in CRM so I can track and follow it up. So that well-defined description can support, this is the D.R.A.W, which is the risks. So based on that description, we work on that. The risks around the description, the user story. It can help and influence the decision on how we're going to define the acceptance criteria when we're working with the business. The acceptance criteria, no-brainer, bread and butter. I've worked in so many projects that we end up saying like, oh, can we just work on the acceptance criteria at a later point? Can we just skip that bit? Or quite often when I work with finance projects or anything related to finance or procurement, they said, oh, can we just work on the spreadsheet? Because I don't want to go on Azure DevOps. I don't want to learn about Azure DevOps. And then we kind of neglecting this bit, and this is quite important because it supports each other, influences each other. It supports the risks, the description, and that's the thing. And the work items. In Azure DevOps, it is the same in Jira as well, but because I work mostly with Microsoft related, so we use Azure DevOps. I'll show you when I show the screen. The work item, I particularly, I prefer not to create small tasks on the actual user story. I prefer to have all in one screen, and then I create the bullet points there for everyone to see in one place. So when you open it, it's going to be all in same screen, because that's the final product. So I customize the process on Azure DevOps to have the fields, the multi-line fields there, to have everything in one screen. So before, when we were working at Agile, we used to have the tasks here, and the tasks end up going in silo, because some prefer to put the information in the tasks, and then when you have the stand-up is only like 15 minutes. So instead of discussing all in one place, we end up moving in multiple screens, and then you lose the information. So the aim is just to have everything in one single place, and then it shows all the coverage with the tests as well. And that's pretty much what D.R.A.W means. It means you have everything in one place: description, risks, acceptance criteria, and work items. That has helped remove the multiple channels, multiple conversation, everything in one place. And that's why when you see my videos there, I always talk about one source of the truth is just to bring everybody together in one place. And that's the goal. There's a lot more into it. If you want to drill down, it's because I don't have my Azure DevOps here. I couldn't connect on my laptop. I wanted to show I work a lot on these states as well. The boards, I mimic the state, and then each column and each state, I force the definition of done. So discuss with the team and says, oh, what's this state is good for the team to be signed off or complete to move on to the next column. And another level as well, you can automate these to the pipeline, CI/CD, and then you can move these along as well. But this one doesn't have that set up in there for you. But yeah, it's simple, and it's probably something that you guys already seen before, but it's yet powerful because you have everything in one screen, brings everybody together. It helps filter out as well people who really contribute to it and people who don't contribute to it, because you bring everybody's be like, oh, am I contributing to it or not? Am I doing something? And those end of the lines there where I put like not tested or to do, everybody get that notification when you update in that and says, well, have I covered the acceptance criteria? Have I done my work items? That's pretty much what I work on with my team to ensure visibility, prevents miscommunication, and encourage ownership, accountability. And let's jump in the actual example. I'm gonna have to share a video later on my LinkedIn if you guys want to see, because I couldn't connect my laptop.
This is a complimentary video to add to the talk that I did last Thursday, and I just wanted to include this extra piece of information. Back then I couldn't connect using my laptop to be able to log into Azure DevOps, so this time I'm just gonna jump on. From the last point where I shared, it was at this screen, so I'm just going to jump to the actual Azure DevOps. As I described it previously on previous slides and previous videos, the D.R.A.W stands for description, risk descriptions, acceptance criteria, and work items. As you enter the content that you need to be able to work on that piece of information at the user story level, this is what it looks like. Let me show you further down at the above level. I did mention as well in the talks about the Kanban board with the columns that I like to work with as we collaborate as a team, working with each other as we progress along the user story. Ideally, as you progress with the user story, we assign to other members of the team, and equally the state as well. This state can be changed, can be modified. This is how it has worked well for us for the project we're working on, but all of these state can be customized at the Azure DevOps admin level. This is something that I do as well if you ever need help with. And each one of these columns, there is a meaning for each of these stage. One of the things I like to work with as well with the team is the definition of done for each one of these columns as you progress throughout the stages throughout the project. So when the first user story is created, is it at the backlog, but then as it moves along, as people interact with the user story, we assign to each other depending on the stage that you are on, and all the way down to the sign-off. The sign-off stage, it's where the ultimate goal for D.R.A.W is, where we get a sign-off from the business and the business is satisfied with the full completion of the coverage that we did have for that user story. We do have the structure of working in epics and in features like that. Notice that I don't have tasks like I did mention as well, because I think tasks pulls people attention away from the objectivity that we want to do, which is keep everything in one place as one source of the truth. So I prefer to keep it linear and clean. You can put stats here as well. I might update this to show the progress. So how in percentage, how many user stories are complete within that feature, and the feature should be the one that goes live, or collection of user stories. This is one of the things that I work on quite a lot as well. View as a board. Let me just go as a board, edit. You can edit the columns. This is where you add the definition of done. I will do like a more thorough video explain all of these and showing all of these in more details, and also how we progress and interact with multiple areas when you're working on a program with multiple projects. The iteration as well. I think the iteration is quite good to work on, especially when you have multiple teams, because you can cross follow the dates that you define and plan for. So when you project managers and business analysts and the business owner work on the dates, we can break it down all the planning here, and that helps as well, not just within one team, but with multiple teams, this is a lifesaver, in my opinion. And of course, make the most use of the discussion area. In the discussion areas where you pop all questions and doubts and attachments and images and everything. But of course, the ultimate area is the draw area, which is description, risk, acceptance criteria, work items. Quite often as well, I see people say, well, but I put this in the discussion. The discussion is like alive and it's dynamic, and the information it's there. But the owner of the user story, that could be anybody who are the doers. Typically, the BA could be the main person or a lead developer who will take the discussion into consideration and update anything that needs to update at the top level. But I'll equally avoid the moving post. But yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's what I wanted to share in that meetup, showing this screen and showing that. It's not meant to be a tutorial, a detailed tutorial. It's meant to be a quick show of the capability. Hopefully, as many of you who are experienced, they can see what I'm trying to pursue in here.
So depending on the project, you're probably going to be having hundreds of these. But these kind of help you focus, or the team focus, in one piece of information at the time, because quite often, like we use the word priority quite wrong. We put it in plural, right? We say, oh, we have 10 priorities. So no, you have one priority, one place at a time. And that's the idea.
How do you handle the backlog? Because those work actions, if there's 50 of them, one put on a page, but also
For this one, you mean the work items there?
Yeah.
So the user story, it's the one that goes to the backlog. So the backlog, you have a bunch of user stories.
Right.
So this is to, instead of creating the tasks that the team have in here, the developer, the tester, the BA, instead of having the tasks in there, you bring the tasks in here with a more like a simple one-liner, and then you execute that. You could end up with 50 in here, definitely. Yeah. You could
Manage that.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be prioritization around the work items there.
Around there, yeah. So it could be the BA work first and then developer, and it could be the developer before with a POC, and you could end up there, doing that.
Do you track timing on those sort of expected completion dates on the work actions or work items?
No, this is not agile. This is because so we worked in a project that I work with. We had a program with multiple projects working on dynamics, and every team were working on isolation. And after we reviewed the ways of working, we, instead of 6 teams, we end up having 1 team, and that's what we're trying to do, just cut down into a smaller team to execute, because you will get messy because of the same environment, multiple teams, like who's gonna go first, and that's what we did, just trying to make more linear. But yeah, the time is tracked against just the user story itself.
So who drives this?
Who drives the whole execution? Yeah, so I have a board where a Kanban board where I have the columns with the state, and the user story. It's not necessarily for one person only on the team, and that's what I think. If I convince you guys enough to use this way, it's because the user story can be passed on to multiple people. So maybe the first one could be the BA gathering that first piece of information, and then talking to the techie guys on the risks, and also with the business on the acceptance criteria. And then the tester comes along as well and says, well, the developer says, well, tester, I've done my bit, so I'm assigning this over to you now. So everybody gets a piece of contribution on the same user story, and it keeps passing along to each one of us. So it's, in a way, it's self-driving on its own.
In reality, people buy into it.
It's tough, it's hard, but once they see it going through, because the ultimate, when you say like, oh, it was good to do this way, it was when we get to UAT. So when the business users get around to sign off, they'll be like, oh yes, I remember when the BA discussed this with me months ago, and I remember contributing with the acceptance criteria. Now I can see closing the loop. So when it gets around UAT is the most, it's the better time when you see the validation of this. At the beginning, everybody will be like, oh, this is Kanban. Agile is better. And I don't like the fact that I have to be moving from one person to another. There's all these challenges, but in the end, it did work really well in the places where we completed that. But it's challenge. It's not easy.
Probably depends which one you start with. If you started with this and then saw Agile, the transition in any direction is always difficult once you've learned something and practiced it.
Yes. The Agile itself, it's if you don't have budget and a good team, and if the organization is not matured enough to use and apply really Agile, is tough. But this is, like I said, this is for when you get to a project and nobody knows what to do. This is like a lean way of working.
So this could be initially
questions.
Sorry.
Yeah, go.
So this is just initial question, like how much time do you spend, or like how much brainstorm you do while preparing this one story? Because I'm looking this from an economic point of view. When you work with a small agile team, but later on you want to scale it. When I'm talking about scaled agile, when you have like 10 cross 10 teams and there like n number of stories will be there.
Yes.
So putting up all this information in one story, and it could be like multiple features we have and epics we have,
Yes.
like one epic or one feature have multiple epics and then
Yes.
multiple features.
Yes.
So just wanted to question, like how much time do you think that a product owner or a product manager would be able to devote in putting up all the information in one story and then replicating it to n number of other stories?
Yes.
And
Okay.
then developer developing the feature and looking at from all the perspective and considering
Yes.
before submitting the build, like how much time consuming or like how time effective this could be?
Yeah. So the structure that we work with is we have epics, features, and user stories, right? So the epic is the project or a milestone that you deliver something. The features is what you actually deploying live, right? And under the features, you have the user story. So this is the granular level of the piece of deliverable that you're doing. So it could be multiple user stories because this is just a piece of work. So this, for example, is just like update existing subscription plan. So this is something that an activity just to satisfy this piece of work under a feature. So it could be 10 user stories under the feature, it could be 20. And the team would be working in this piece of work here. Multiple people will be working on this, contributing to it. So it's not going to be one person sitting and writing everything. Yeah, it's a collaborative. Yeah. So typically the BA or developer working on the description and the risks, the developer, and the acceptance criteria as well, the BA, and the tester come along and says, well, based on this, I am testing against the acceptance criteria, so I write my test cases against that. And everybody would have maybe a line in here of something that they're executing or working on. Sorry.
What problem of the stakeholder is this trying to solve, and in what way does it benefit the stakeholder?
This. So if you, you're thinking, you're saying like the business, right? Yeah. So the business ask us to work on a solution for them, and they wanted to make sure you deliver the solution for them. So how can they be confident enough that you have a level of coverage that when you delivered, you have captured everything that I asked for as a business, and you developed and you tested as well, and you delivered. And then to me, I am seeking a sign-off from the business in the end, just before it goes live at the UAT phase, the user acceptance testing. So this is, for me, it's like, well, how can I close that loop? And then the business will be like, oh, I am confident that what I asked for, it's what you delivered. So to me, that's the main.
It's more of process-oriented rather than...
Yeah, it's a ways of working. So even though we work in tech, I think this is quite important to deliver, like, you know, what the business actually asked for. So that's the goal. Yeah, good. I'm sweating. Thank you.
I am not going to go into details on the test plan and anything else. There's other delivery plans as well. It's quite interesting area to work on, where you can use to plan all the features, which is quite interesting as well, area to work on with the project manager and reporting back to the business. But yeah, and the wiki is where you document every process and every piece of information for the project, and also it can be used as a part of the documentation as well. The documentation I prefer to be at the user story level, but in the wiki is important as well for instructions for the product, and also to categorize, and then it looks a little bit more structured for whoever comes in at later point, or if you need to come back again like a year or 2 years later, you need to refer back, especially for the maintenance team, the BAU team. It's a good handover documentation for them, and you can see we can make the most of the wiki. So everything I've shown you, it's Azure DevOps and the wiki. The equivalent to them the equivalent to it is Jira and Confluence. So wiki in Azure DevOps, Confluence in Atlassian, and Azure DevOps task management in Jira. You have the Kanban and the Agile and everything else. I hope you got what I was trying to explain. I was trying to show you and share with you guys. I hope you enjoyed what I was trying to share with you. If you need anything else, if you need a little bit more details about these, how to set up and everything, I think it's beneficial for everyone across the team, not just the doers, but the management as well. They will have a bit more clarity and transparency on the project ongoing, and it can help with a higher quality of work, better collaboration. There's less admin and micromanagement as well, which is one of the things I really like to work with, is that you're a lot more independent and yet accountable for what you're doing. Yeah, if you need any help or implement this, I can do it myself, I can do it with a team. It doesn't matter how many people that you need. We can approach in a different ways. Just let me know. I am building up a course. If you send me a message, drop me an email or a message through LinkedIn, so I can gauge how many people are really interested. And early comers as well, early adopters can get a massive discount. You helping me building this training. We can work on a do it for you approach, or do it with you as well. So if you let us have access, we can do it for you remotely, or if you prefer that we come in and do it and train you, helping with the internal capability, we can do that as well. Just get in touch, and thank you. Bye for now.